Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lori Drake, and I am the community manager here at Handle. If you are unfamiliar with what Handle does, we are a lien management company. We do waiver compliance, job research, and then we also have a dedicated payment portal. Today, we do a panel of 3 experts. I'll go ahead and do some introductions here. First, we have Sahnow. She is the Director of Credit at OrePac. Eve has worked at OrePac for over 12 years and within the construction industry for about the same. She earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration and Management from Metropolitan State University of Denver. Eve earned her CCE designation from the NACM, which is National Association of Credit Management, if you're not familiar, as well as a degree from the Graduate School of Credit and Financial Management, which is another division of NACM. She is a committed member of the NACM and CFDD, which makes her a true advocate for continuing education and the power of professional networking. Eve currently sits on the NACM Northwest Board of Directors. Thanks for joining us today, Eve.
Thank you, Lori.
Next, we have Marisa Richter. Marisa is the Corporate Credit Manager with Franklin Building Supply. She earned her bachelor's degree in economics from Boise State University. She brings new insight and experience to the profession by joining Franklin as well as the industry about 2 years ago. Coming into the industry, she had the opportunity to work with some exceptional mentors and now finds it equally important to not only excel in her role, but also invest with those she works with. Thanks for joining us today, Marisa.
Thank you.
And we have Richard Fowler. Richard is the credit manager for United States Lime and Minerals. He joined the construction industry over 20 years ago and returned to it just over a year ago. There's an old saying, once you're in construction, you don't want to be in any other industry and you'll always come back. Well, he left and he came back again. He attended the Eastfield College and majored in economics and finance. He earned his CBF designation also from the National Association of Credit Management and is currently a member of the Texas Statewide Construction Credit Group, which is part of NACM Southwest in Dallas. Richard believes in being hands-on and sharing his experience and education to his peers. So thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time out, sharing your information with everybody. These are the objectives that we will be talking about today: the importance of a credit report, top credit reporting companies, details of each report's samples and how to read them, and then differences with pros and cons. Richard, can you talk about why a business credit report is important to use?
Just going back a few years, you used to, in a credit application process, you get all of your credit information, references, banking, et cetera, for making credit decisions. Over the years, we found that sometimes the information was either not accurate, not up to date. And so the secondary credit report and sometimes the third report is always useful and helpful to get a better view. The credit reports often report trade lines from different industries that gives you an idea of what that particular business is doing in terms of their credit and if they're past due or not.
These are the top credit reporting companies that we do find that people use: Experian, Equifax, Dun & Bradstreet, Moody's, Cortera, NACM, and CreditSafe. And we'll dive deeper into these as we go forward. So first we have Experian. Eve, what do you usually look for when you use this report?
Well, first and foremost, I want to make sure that everybody understands that you need to take all of these with a grain of salt. When you're looking and pulling up a company, you need to see the type of businesses at the top. So for instance, if your company has either changed its legal status or changed ownership, right there at the top, you can see what the actual legal business name of the report that you pulled up. So as you can see here, that you might be looking for Crocker Industries LLC. Here it shows they're a corporation. So you want to make sure that the information is accurate. I will say that one of the best things about Experian is that if you report an inaccuracy in the report that you find to your, whoever handles your contract, they are very quick doing a review and updating the information. And they're one of the better agencies for doing that. But you want to make sure that you're looking if they have a DBA that's registered. That's really important, especially when you're looking for any sort of security for, I guess, a potential legal battle down the road. You always want to set yourself up for success in the beginning. And so if you do not look and ensure that a DBA is actually registered and that's the actual entity that you're doing business with, is the DBA and not the legal entity, you can get yourself into a mess of trouble down the road. And you want to be wary of that. And just because the report doesn't show the registered DBA doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And so you want to actually go to the county recorder's office and do a search. Most of it's online and digital, depending on the state. But you go to the county that the company's registered to do business with, and you check that that DBA is registered. And just because it's not here, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
What do you mean when you say report it to the Bureau? Are you reporting it on your own account or on somebody else's account?
Well, that's a great question. We bought our contract through the National Association of Credit Managers, our local affiliate, which is Commercial Services. And so we have a central person that we email, and then she deals with the communication to Experian. And so whoever handles your contract is who you would want to communicate the inaccuracy to.
So this is an actual sample of a report. Can you tell us where to look on this to find some of the information you were talking about?
Yeah, so just in that top part with the first arrow, you'll see there, you'll see that they have the legal name there at the top. Second, the risk dashboard. This is also something you want to take with a grain of salt, because if they have a lot of load trade lines, they might show super healthy, but that doesn't necessarily mean a lot to you. If you're looking to underwrite them for a $50,000 credit line and they might show that they have a high IntelliScore rating. Well, that might be based on a bunch of really low trade lines. And so you have to be cognizant of that. So it's a great way to scan the report. You scan this information and then you go down into the meat of what that information is coming from. And we'll get into that in a second. But it definitely highlights some of what the company will find is a potential risk or stability score. So it's a good thing to keep in mind as part of your puzzle, but you want to understand where that information is actually coming from. So look through the dashboard, that second block there tells you about ownership information. This is very important. You want to know if the ownership information is true and accurate and aligns with what is on your credit application. And if it's not, you need to have an investigation done because the information could be outdated.
The next one we have is an Equifax report. Marisa, what do you look for when you're pulling this report?
So when I'm looking through an Equifax report, I do really like that they show you the debt to credit ratio. Understanding a company's cash flow is really important. Generally, you're kind of a cog in the wheel of their cash flow when you're dealing with trade credit. And so understanding exactly what they have out there and what their capacity is to pay back any kind of line that you would consider extending them based on all the other kinds of credit they have out there is really important. So getting a snapshot of that is something I really like to see. It's really important to me when I'm looking through any kind of business report. There's a ton of data out there. You can have a million kinds of metrics that you can use to analyze how someone is doing things. But I do really like to keep it simple. We're looking at somebody's ability to pay back credit that you've extended them. And in trade credit, that's usually in a pretty short time frame. And so what I like about Equifax is that they are basing their predictions off of the next 12 months. And so that's going to give you, I think, a bit more of an accurate understanding of this individual's ability not only to pay their bills, but also the likelihood of them to fail at paying their bills. And so this is something that I definitely like to see, and that I think that they show in a really simple way.
So here is an example of an Equifax report. Can you show us where you usually look for the information?
Yeah, absolutely. And so up here you have the company profile. Just as Eve had mentioned previously, which you do in all credit reports, is you should be verifying the company information. You want to make sure that everything is matching on this report as it does on the application that's been submitted to you. Another thing I also like to look at is the size of the company. And so looking at what the estimated revenue reported is for that company and company size. One reason why I do like to look at this is, if I'm a bit on the fence about something, and does this really help me justify asking for a personal guarantee on a line? And so companies that don't have the size or maybe don't have the credit worthiness, that's another way to cover yourself if you are considering taking that customer on, if that's within your company's risk appetite. And so that's a really big one I look for here. Now, this business failure report, like I said, you have that prediction there on what is potentially going to happen within, a 90-day severe delinquency or charge-off, just as the note says. And so understanding here that this is a prediction and taking that with a grain of salt, every industry and bureau is using their own algorithm to tell the future. And so, like I said, things change quickly. And so understanding what this is, it's not a tell-all, but it is an indicator and it is a metric that you can use in your analysis.
Thank you for that. The next report we have is the Dun & Bradstreet. This one we hear about a lot. Do you find that Experian and Equifax are more of like a compact and very clear, easy to read? Whereas Dun & Bradstreet, from my experience, it seems to have a lot of information. hear some more examples of it.
Yes, definitely. I think Experian and Equifax have done a really good job at creating a pretty seamless user interface and bringing relevant data points together for easy digestion. Looking at Duns and Bradstreet, I know that it's been over 100 years that it's been around, and so there's a ton of data that's within this company. And so, I've come from the banking industry as well, and I know this is pretty popular in that industry. But I would say that, maybe a potential downside of the data that they have is that they just haven't really brought together a user interface that makes sense for what people are looking for today. It's really about the relevancy of what that customer is asking for with the data that the bureau is assessing them against.
So another one that isn't often spoke about is the Moody's Cortera report. I know that Cortera used to stand on its own and it would have some information. And when they moved with Moody's, it was supposed to provide even additional information. It's a really nice report. They got their alerts, they got their credit scores, payment behaviors. It looks like it might be another compact one.
So one of the benefits of that I have been told about the Moody's reports is that there could be some SBA information that isn't typically reported on some of the other reports. I've heard that. I haven't actually dug into that myself, but there's a lot of reporting also on some of the government agencies. I can attest that we have spreadsheets that we've downloaded ourselves on PPE loan information. And so we can tell all that information is available for consumption and review.
So as we talked about National Association of Credit Management a lot, most people know of them, but they do offer a National Trade Credit Report, which it is a report that's compiled of information from their members. Eve, what's your experience with the NACM reports?
So for me, the NACM trade reports, the NTCR, is the most adaptable. They are the fastest to update by sure, and they encourage a lot of their members to contribute. And so one of the things about all these reports is they're only as powerful as the information that they're obtaining. And so if it's not available for public record, if it's actually proprietary information in your ERP system, if you're not giving that out of your free will to the reporting agencies, they don't have that information. And the strongest thing about the NTCRs is they encourage every member to submit their trade lines for the benefit of the credit community. And that is such a strong asset, in my opinion, as far as every member is asked, do you want to submit your aging? And again, the benefit of all this information is for us, is so that we are able to, within our networks, see what's out there. And there's not your name. It's not like OrePac billing products, like Tradeline is right there. Everything is redacted. It's not that you're having to disclose competitor information on these reports, both within Experian or NACM. It's all redacted, but the information is out there. And you can see right there on the credit report when the last time the trade line, and as well as Experian, when was the last time that trade line was reported and updated, and when was the date of the last invoice? And so you can kind of gain, some info. Some of it's old, if you can see that somebody had reported from 2022, you don't know if that trade line still exists out there, right. But the information is still important. And with the NTCR and also Experian, I can't speak to the others because we're not currently using those, and I don't know if their systems have changed since, OrePac has used a Dun & Bradstreet interface. But they have credit monitoring. And so if your portfolio is uploaded into both here and Experian, you'll get a dashboard alert to let you know if something is reported that's negative that could impact, as well as a scoring matrix that lets you know which of your companies, even though your trade line might not be past due, but somebody else is showing a high volume of past due, it's all right there for you to see and monitor. And that's been really powerful.
Lori, we rely very heavily on NACM credit reports. It happens to be our primary report. One of the things to Eve's point about the alerts was we find that very useful. While we're a member of one particular industry group, Texas statewide, even if there's a customer that maybe is not currently being reported on, I can usually send out that alert and usually get feedback about that same customer and find out what's going on. So the other good side to this is it also contains member numbers. Generally, if that member is part of our industry group, I know I can just pick up the phone and call or email that member and ask for a reference on any particular mutual customer. So I really like the NACM reports. They're affordable, and it does happen to be the one credit reporting resource I have been involved with for many years, as you probably know, Lori. Thanks.
And to Richard's point as well, really quick, and so if you have someone that's not in your local affiliate, might be with another affiliate, so they don't show, you don't necessarily know their number. And so if they're not within your immediate group, if they are, you know who they are. And if they're not, the affiliate to affiliate relationship will allow for them to reach out and for their information to be released to you for further rate information. And so we've relied heavily on that, where somebody might not be in our industry group or even at our local affiliate, but I can see they have an age trade line that I want more information on. And so our affiliate will reach out to theirs and then request, will you be allowed for us to release your information to them so they can directly request a trade line from you or further inquiry. And it's been really powerful as well.
That's a great way to stay current and up to date on that information. We do have a question that came through for any of you. When you're sending an alert, what kind of alert are you sending?
Usually, if I run into a customer where I know I've come back to the office and determined that we might also have a little bit of a concern for a marginal customer, let's say, we get to a point where we've made a decision to either file a lien or place an account for collections, for example. That's an alert that I'm going to send out and submit so that the rest of our industry group members are aware of it and they can see that. And then on the other side of that is when you see that alert come through, you know, or you're going to recognize that customer's name, and you know that if that customer is having problems or has an issue with another supplier, then that's probably a good idea for me to make sure I look at my aging, make sure I've got my bond and lien rights protected, that I have a good line of communication, and that I need to make sure that I've gotten recent payments and I can follow up and just keep it on my radar going forward to make sure that I know what's going on with this customer, and then just revisit back at the next credit group meeting to touch base and then offer my contribution at that point. And you know, as you know, Lori, we find that even yesterday, just having a couple of discussions with the attorney that was there and another member of our group, we ended up just networking a little bit more and being able to, establish the contact so that we can communicate a lot better.
I've got a quick story to back up what Richard was talking about. One of the most important things is to have an inactive customer policy in your books regarding, when you want to mark a customer as inactive, so that if they aren't necessarily buying from you, they're buying from someone else, they can tap out their trade line and then come to you for sales. And one of those alerts, to Richard's point, that came through was a customer that had just placed a large PO with us, and it was because they had tapped out their other material suppliers, and they were literally a month away from being placed on inactive. And we were able, because of the alert, obviously stop, pull credit reports and see that there was an underlying issue and that we absolutely did not want to release material to them. So it's just more important about the powerful network that, organizations such as Handle and NACM and some of the other ones out there are so detrimental to be a part of, because everything is the power of your network.
Yeah, that's nice too. So this is a sample TCR report. Does one of you want to just kind of show what is where? And Marisa, I know you've been looking at those recently.
Sure, yeah. And so, you have your score here. We see different scores for everybody. Now, these guys are 1 through 5, and you've got 2 4s. And so as you get further towards 5, it's just mostly you're getting more high risk. And so in this instance, you can see therefore be very high risk. So you're getting that accumulative score there. And then when you go down to the charts, you're looking at just some historical SB percentages. And then that is utilized to, once again, kind of predict what the future could hold for this customer. So these are really good to kind of see and visualize your data on, the way that this customer could end up paying based on their past behavior. And then it's going to give you kind of the summary of those trends right down below there. And you're going to be able to kind of see a list out of the data of those trade lines that is being reported. And you're going to get that month and that quarterly report, which is going to be really helpful for the short term as well, for maybe that 90-day period, which may come into play. Now here we have a little bit more down on on the trade lines. So these are for members that are furnishing the reports. And so what this is going to show you here, it's just going to show you a bit more in-depth detail. So you're going to be getting reports down here that are going to go ahead and replicate what it looks to be just like an aging. And so you're going to be able to see and cross and compare that. The one that I really find important are the public records. As these are updated so consistently, those judgments and the lien filings are great to be able to have right there in the report to see what is actually going on. If someone comes to you and wants the trade line, but they've just had liens filed against them by their other material supplier, with the speed that these are updated, you should be seeing that right there. And that should be the red flag for you to go ahead and stop and put the brakes on that application.
To confirm now, most of the trades are member reported. Are the public records member, or do they actually grab those from the state and counties?
I believe they're both. So I believe it updates from state and county, but if you are a member and you report that is happening, I'm sure they're going to go and confirm that and then update the report themselves.
And that's usually done within a day or two at most.
Nice. That's even good too.
Mm-hmm.
So Credit Safe is another one that's coming around. They've been around for a long time, but it seems, in my experience, that it was for larger companies or more international. Richard, you had mentioned before that you have dealt with this report some. What are you finding?
Credit Safe reporting actually are secondary, just depending on who our customer is. We use it as a secondary report alongside of Experian. But what I like about the Credit Safe reports is, the first page at the very top, everything is all of their coding and about their data points are explained, beginning with a risk score. It does also include an international score if that particular business is doing business overseas. And it also offers a recommended credit limit. Now, to clarify that, I have found that that's an amount that's not real accurate or consistent, particularly when you consider the number of pages that you get with a Credit Safe report. But the summary page is real good. It's very simple by outlining how the Credit Safe credit score is used and over the past 12 months or so. Getting on into the later pages, it's really what I find is a lot of charts and graphs. Very helpful if you're the type that likes to look at that kind of stuff. I think the comment I made before in front of this discussion was that there's some days when it might be 4 o'clock on Friday and I got a credit application for a customer that wants a delivery on Monday. I'm going to go to that NACM report because it's going to be 1 page, 2 pages at the most. Credit Safe sometimes is going to be anywhere from 12 to 20 pages. And while it's still useful, I'm going to tend to, I don't necessarily need to look at all of the charts and all of the graphs. I'm only looking at that first page or two that gives me the risk score, what their recommended credit limit is. And again, we utilize at least two credit reports, maybe 3 on a scoring model that we use in addition to those credit reports and information off the credit application, et cetera. So it's a very useful report. It has a lot of information. And again, I think the graphs and the charts are, if you're one that likes to look at that stuff, that's probably going to be a popular report for you. But overall, we like it too.
In comparison to like the Dun & Bradstreet and this one, have you found that either of them are more in construction? You have a lot of smaller companies, a lot of guys working out the backside of their trucks. Are these reports going to show those kind of companies?
I have found with D&B not so much, especially if you're looking at those mom and pop type customers. Just coming from a construction building materials background, there's a good portion of your AR portfolio that are going to be exactly those types of customers. That guy that's just working out of the back of his truck. And I have found that Credit Safe reporting does provide a little bit more consistent hits, if you will, for customers like that. And I think that's where the wealth of information that comes from that report comes in handy, because it tells you a little bit more about that small guy, that small business, and that guy that's working out of the back of his truck.
So after the presentation, I will be sending a follow-up email that will have the recording from this, and then I will also include these slides. So as you go through the slides, you can actually click on each of these links and get more information specifically about a report that you're looking at as well. Do you have a favorite report? Let's make it nice and easy between any of those. How about finding a report that provides any additional information that we haven't already talked about?
I think, I think that we'll see a big change in credit reporting as more states become automated as far as their information that's available, because there's such great technology out there that's available to go out and retrieve the information and come back to you. For instance, some of the Department of Revenue sites, if you want to look at resale certificates, you can upload files and they'll return you information very quickly. I think, more and more states are getting more automated and developing that level of sophistication. And as they do, we're going to see a huge surge in the difference and the competitive nature of credit reports.
That's interesting. I didn't know you could do that when you're looking up a resale.
Yeah, at least a couple of the states that we do business with have automatic retrievals. You upload a CSV file and they can give you instant feedback on whether or not those are still accurate, and the legal entity that actually holds the name of that value. So it's a good way as well to check the integrity of the information in your ERP system.
What about the cost? Which report seems to give you the most bang for the buck?
And TCR.
For me, I just go with Experian again. Just the demographic that we have, it's really worked well for us, and they offer a really reasonable yearly contract price for anything you want to pull. So that's something that's been really easy and affordable.
What do you think, Richard?
I think for us, NACM probably is the most cost-effective credit reporting resource, with Credit Safe probably costing a little bit more on an annual basis. You typically just pay a flat fee and it's unlimited reporting, but that flat fee it just depends on, I think, what your departmental budget is. Experian, I think, comes in as a secondary, or it's a better cost-effective report than Credit Safe, for example. I just try to make sure that we're utilizing Credit Safe as often as possible, because it is an unlimited contract that we have. So everything is included, and I'll always try to get at least one Credit Safe report included.
Oh, we are getting short on time, but we do have another question that came through. Do you have to have contracts with these companies to pull reports?
No. No, you don't need to have a contract to pull a business credit report.
If you're looking for volume, it's more advantageous to have a contract.
And let's add to that then, where would you go to get a contract? Just directly?
Well, all of our contracts are through our NACM local affiliate, so that's where we get access to ours, NACM Commercial Services.
For us, our NACM contract includes Experian. So with Credit Safe, we have a direct relationship with them, so their contracts come in once a year. So it's more of a separate or standalone contract that we have with Credit Safe. But NACM and Experian for us is one and the same.
So it sounds like you all say that Experian is tied with the NACM. So I'm guessing like Moody's and Dun & Bradstreet, you would go to them directly. I just want to say huge thanks to our panel, Sahnow, Marisa Richter, and Richard Fowler. Hearing obviously from practitioners that are actually using the products definitely provide a better understanding and perspective. And we want to thank everybody for taking the time out and joining us today. And we hope to see you next time.